Hi guys, how you doing? It's Maddie. Um, I am about to make the most nervous video I've ever made, and then the button clicky thing wasn't working, and I'm taking a deep breath and getting ready, and no clicky, and now we clicked, so I think we're good. How you doing? Anything new? Exciting? I'd love to hear about it. I'm here today because I had my first ever suggested video, and it came through an email from a friend who knows that I'm sick, and they know I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I know they don't know all about it, but I had a flare this past couple of weeks. That's where I've been. And we email. And this person is, I have the people you email, like when you get to it and this and that. This person I email like right away, just a dear, dear friend to me. And I didn't get back to them. And when I finally did, I said, I'm so sorry, I had a flare. And they go, what do you, it's a flare, like a flare gun, what'd you have? And I said, and I went to tell my friend, and they said, look, you talk about your disease on your channel, and you said so underdiagnosed and misdiagnosed. Why not bring it to the masses? So I'm here today to talk about what an Ehlers-Danlos flare is. And when I say Ehlers-Danlos, I am type 3 hypermobile, and I get flares. Now, I don't know what you know or don't know about it, and I don't want to do everything. I've talked about the past year, it's a bit redundant. But what I'll just let you know is Ehlers-Danlos hypermobile is a disease that you have when your body does not digest and distribute collagen as it should. So if you think about collagen in your body, that's all your organs, your skin, your hair, your teeth, your nails, your bones, the connective tissues, the tendons, the ligaments, the muscles, the nerves, it's everything, okay? And that's what Ehlers-Danlos is, so right off the bat. And hypermobile means that you are extremely double jointed to a fault, actually, and you've hurt your body is hurting itself, really. Now, what a flare is anywhere from, say, 1 to 5 of your joints, maybe, will act up. And I'm going to give you a quick list of my joints and bones that are affected by Ehlers-Danlos so I could explain the flare a little better. I do have some paperwork. It's 98% what happens to me and 2% fact-checked what's not part of the flare, because I did have a symptom that was unique to me. Now, my areas of my body that are affected, and these are affected every single day, but when the flare hits, the flare hits. So I have problems with my jaw, hands, fingers, elbows, shoulders, ribs, knees, one ankle, my feet, my toes, and my spine. And that's cervical, thoracic, and lumbar. And what Ehlers-Danlos is that means those joints dislocate, or worse, they sublux. Sublux is a partial dislocation. So if you have, say, your knee or your shoulder, a ball and socket joint, and it wants to dislocate, well, it would go dislocate, right? Just dislocate. Well, when it subluxes, it partially dislocates. And if you've ever dislocated a joint, that's where the pain is in the dislocation. It's the not being located, just kind of floating, rubbing. It's not good. It's definitely not good. And, I'm about to talk about things that I don't even know if my kids know about. But like my friend said, if I'm going to bitch that it's underdiagnosed and misdiagnosed, then I want to talk about it, because I don't want this to happen to anybody else. It took me 23 years for a diagnosis, for a correct diagnosis. I have been given every diagnosis from chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, lupus, MS, and there's another one in there. All of these diseases, at one point or another, I have been told I had. I did not. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And there are people out there, and they are misdiagnosed as well. And that's a shame. Now, again, I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but the collagen, my body doesn't digest or distribute it. Nobody with my disease does. So, a flare, I'm going to describe that to you. But what I'm going to tell you is, because the collagen and things like that, they don't digest, you will do things, it affects things like your nails and your skin and your hair. I've lost my hair 3 times. That's why I don't cut it, because I have it. And when I have it, I'm very happy. But that's not a flare. Okay. A flare is, basically you will find out you have one, or figure out you have one when you wake up from sleeping. I've never been struck with one awake or had, one come on. It's generally when you wake up. And you will know it like before you open your eyes, because anywhere from 1 to 5 to 7 of your joints or bony areas that are affected will be on fire. And I mean fire, like hurt. And then when you examine the joint that is hot, you will find it is swollen. I've had my knees as big as my head swollen. That's how bad it can be. You'll generally run what they call a low-grade fever. Now, I run a higher fever. I'm generally 97 degrees, 96.5, like they're always redoing me with the COVID because I'm too low. So when I get a fever of 101 that tips on 102, that's not low grade to me, but apparently it is to the public. So low grade fever. Yeah, there's so many things with this. You'll have that joint that's acting up, the fever. You will pretty much be confined to your bed because you will have fatigue like you can't imagine. And you could have just come off like a 10-day glorious vacation, relaxed, feeling good. It doesn't matter. You can wake up that day and it was like you ran 3 Boston marathons the night before. Just terrible. It's terrible. It affects your eyes, my eyes. There's a thing with migraines and Ehlers-Danlos, which I get. But because my eyes are affected, I get very ocular migraines and pre-migraine phenomena without the migraine. And what that means is my eyes will see either like flashing lights, blinking lights, bright lights, no lights. It's terrible. And it comes with dizzy. It does. My daughter, she figured this out for me. She puts dots on the wall and in my room on the ceiling. And when you get super dizzy and you can't see, you're supposed to focus on that dot to just center yourself so you don't feel like you're doing this anymore. I do have a medication for my motion sickness, for the dizzy. I have medications for everything. Yeah, there's that. As a matter of fact, because I just had the flare, and what you take, what I am given when I have a flare are oral steroids, prednisone, and you start with an extremely high dose, and then you wean down, as needed. I don't even like to be on camera today because right now I have moon face. Well, I call it moon face. It is, I can't tell the difference between like my neck and my face because it's so swollen because I was on steroids for 2.5 weeks. And steroids increase the blood sugar, your sugar in your blood, and that puts weight on you. They kill your immune system. Like steroids are like love-hate because in a flare, they will like save your life. They are steroidal anti-inflammatories. And at that point, you need that. My eyes. Now, this was unique to me. My eyes get red. Like, I've discussed my broken capillaries and how disgusting my skin is to me before. For some reason, when I have a flare, it appears the capillaries, the veins, the whatever's in your eyes, mine all just come to the surface and are bright bright red. And I'm not talking like a couple of hits off a joint or allergies red. I am talking that my children don't even like to look at me. And I can't look at myself when they're like that. It's not cool. It's not cool. So there's that. What else do we get? There's a problem eating. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. With me, it depends on how my esophagus and my trachea stall. Sometimes they stall this direction and I'm good. I'm good. I can eat, I can swallow, everything's happy. Sometimes they will freeze in this position. And when they freeze like that, you will dry heave, vomit, gag. It's very difficult to swallow because you're fighting your own, muscles and body to get your medication in you. It's just, I wouldn't dare eat with it, but I would still like to take my medication when I can, if I can. There's that. And the fever dreams, because you will sleep for like 16, 18, 24 hours will go by. You will think you are awake. It will be like a fever dream, but I swore I was been awake and doing things during these episodes, and my children will say, no, Mom, you were in your bed since Saturday or whatever it is. That happens, if that's part of it. I get nosebleeds. I get a lot of nosebleeds when I'm having a flare. That's a part of it as well. They recommend compression for the joints, ice, heat, nothing touches it. It just doesn't. I will be completely honest with you. Sometimes your bladder will fail. It will, because generally with Ehlers-Danlos, you more often than not will have prolapsed organs or things like that. You'll have a prolapsed bladder or uterus and or rectum, and things just prolapse when you don't have collagen that you need. So there's that. Now, people with Ehlers-Danlos, 75% of us have increased anxiety and OCD. I thought that was really fascinating, for a physical disease to have like these mental components. There's so many components to this stupid disease. If you would like me to talk about that again, I'll be more than happy to. Right now, we're just talking about the flares, episodes, attacks, whatever you call them, depending on how bad mine is usually how I'll verbalize it or how it was. These episodes can last 2 days. They can last 5 to 7 weeks. Now, I can be my own worst enemy with these because, like I said, I hate the steroids. And the minute on onset, you got to take those immediately, and I will fight it. I will, try to not. I'll wait. And you really shouldn't, because you can be better faster. And 10 pounds over a couple weeks, or moon face even, is worth your health. I'm still warm, and you can expect that fever to last a week or two after your flare, once your joints are all put back together and feeling better, and speaking of joints, I mentioned my ribs, and this I thought was fascinating. I don't know why. I understand the damage. Osteoarthritis was another diagnosis I had at 25. Now, see, I forgot where I was. Which will bring you to brain fog. How's that? Brain fog is a part of having an episode, of having Ehlers-Danlos in general. And what brain fog does for us, anyway, is you can't recall things correctly, or you don't necessarily. You'll have your version of what happened, and that's not actually what happened. You're just thinking out loud, and there's that with brain fog, and your brain doesn't process correctly. Like math would be impossible, or like putting silverware away. This is something that hits me often. Say I'm holding 3 forks in one hand, and I'm distributing the silverware with my right hand, and I have a spoon here, right? So I should go in the spoon slot. Nope. I see the forks, and I think fork slot. Do you know what I mean? So like your brain is kind of jumping itself ahead of itself, not processing correctly. And this is just completely exacerbated when you're having a flare. And with the flares, they don't know what makes them happen. So because they don't know that, they can't tell you how to prevent them or, like that. They have an idea. Now, I believe it was creatine. Please don't quote me on that, but we're going to use creatine for the example. Now, when you're very physically active or you exercise, you get that muscle burn and stuff, that's creatine in your blood. Apparently, they think people with Ehlers-Danlos, when their creatine goes up, like if I do something, say, more stressful physically than I should be doing, my body will say, and shut it down. So they do think that like physical activity may precipitate or invoke the flares. They're not sure, so they can't prevent them. But I know anybody with Ehlers-Danlos isn't supposed to do a hell of a lot anyway. My ribs, I remembered. I'm getting there. Now, as far as my ribs, this blew my mind. I was sitting at home one day. This was after my diagnosis, and I knew my liver had just ruptured. I did. So I got to my daughter. I said, my liver ruptured. I did that. She goes, Mom, what the hell's wrong with you? So I told her, I have this excruciating pain on the left side, right side. I think it was the right side. I don't even remember. It was horrific. So then I came to terms with the fact it was my gallbladder. So I think like I'm bursting, all my organs. What it was is apparently your ribs, my ribs, our ribs are connected through ligaments and tendons. So here's your ribs, right? And then you have the ligaments and the tendons, those being affected by the Ehlers-Danlos. So your ribs dislocate. And that's quite painful if you've never dislocated a rib. I think it's more painful than breaking. I will tell you, my dislocations and subluxes, I find more painful than any bone I ever broke any time. Another thing you will have is searing, nerve pain. If you have any nerve issues to begin with, like I do all over my body, my spine is shot, like I said, so I have nerve problems. I have a dangling nerve on the left side of my thoracic spine. They don't know where it's from. They don't know what it's connected to, but they know it's down there just dangling. So I have problems with my nerves, the sheaths of the nerves, because they require collagen. So when you have a flare, if you have a nerve that is bad or tends to act up, it's involved just as random as the bones can be. The nerves are. So you'll have your swollen, on fire, unusable joints, and then you'll get a searing nerve pain. It's brutal. It really is. You're pretty much bedridden. You are. And you have audible, you have music, and then what the hell do you have? Like being in bed is, I hate it. I hate it. And having Ehlers-Danlos, now when I'm not in a flare, when people aren't in a flare, we don't sleep well. They don't know if it's the pain, the elevated anxiety, or what, but people with Ehlers-Danlos 3 generally aren't sleeping 8 hours. We're sleeping 2 here, 4 there, 3 there, whatever we can grab. So the flare is just dead sleep, real sleep, but yeah, it's just tough. So I just want to review my paperwork, make sure I kind of touched on everything for you, because here's the reason it is important to talk about all the diagnoses I had, the treatments I went through for those diagnoses, the things I came to terms with, the everything. I mean, MS. He thought I had multiple sclerosis. It's just terrible, and any disease is terrible, but I think there are more Ehlers-Danlos patients out there than doctors know. And I've been to physicians that don't even know what it is. We need to sit down and go, any health problems? I go, yes. Ehlers-Danlos hypermobile, HEDS. What's that? What's that? I have heard that from GPs. I've heard it from rheumatologists. Those are bone doctors. A lot of people just don't know. And if I can help the next guy, that's truly all I want to do. I'm not complaining. I'm not bitching. That's not my style. please don't tell me you're sorry. I don't want you to be sorry. I just don't want the next person. Again, I started presenting at 25 officially. I will tell you, when we looked back, I had sciatica at 16. 16, sciatica. I missed my junior year, practically. Yeah, and the doctor, he knew I was hypermobile. He was an orthopedist, so he knew that, but beyond that, nothing. And Ehlers-Danlos is something you're born with. It is generally inherited. It is sometimes an anomaly, to your birth. You may just have it. It may not run in your family. Sometimes it shows in your DNA. Sometimes it does not, or you will get a false negative with type 3. Now, your vascular Ehlers-Danlos, that's very dangerous. That's the heart and things like that. My only heart issue related to the Ehlers-Danlos is I do have the aortic dilation, which I didn't know. That was pretty fascinating because I have unrelated health issues. I had my first heart surgery at 21. And my problem is electrical, non-specific arrhythmias, palpitations. But the aortic root dilation, you pound a little harder, when you're having a flare. You do. I think, I'm just looking at my paperwork, migraines, heightened anxiety, ligaments, collagen, elbows. I think I pretty much hit everything. This is very tough for me. It really is. This is very personal. I'm sick, and I just don't want other people to be sick as long as I was. Oh, again, I had sciatica at 16. I've always had the digestive issues, always. And then at 25, I went to the doctor for a sore knee. I had a bad knee, a bum knee. And we x-ray it, we do the MRIs, and it's a mess. What'd you do? I didn't do nothing. Oh, you got osteoarthritis. Okay. And then 2 years later, my shoulders started going. And then, x-rays. Ooh, they were a mess. And then MRIs. And then my doctor gets the MRI and he looks, he goes, Jesus Christ. He goes, you have the shoulders of an 80-year-old laborer. I was 35. That was 16 years ago. It's just a progressive, painful disease. And it's just grossly misdiagnosed, underdiagnosed. And if you've ever heard or been told, that you have fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue, Epstein-Barr is another one, mono, I've heard it all. The osteoarthritis got me though, because 25-year-old women do not get osteoarthritis. They don't. And that's why when the other diagnoses started rolling in, we were treating for MS, we were treating for lupus, and it wasn't any of that. And it was amazing because he figured it out by 2 motions I can do. Now, one of my kids can do this. My kids do not have it. They do not have Ehlers-Danlos, thank God. So yeah, so my doctor looks at me one day. Oh, I was telling him I have a chest tendon. It mimics a heart attack when it acts up, okay? It's about here, okay? It's right over the heart. And it goes up my jaw, it goes down my arm, into my head. It mimics a heart attack. So again, I am not a hospital person. I'm just not. If I cannot pass out or die, I'm probably not at the hospital. I would wait to see my doctor because he knew best. And with the chest tendon, I went in, I said, I'm having a heart attack. He goes, well, I always tell you, you're too goddamn fat. And I said, that's not very nice. I'm having a heart attack. I was not having a heart attack. I wasn't. It was the tendon, but I get shots, injections, cortisone injections. I get one right there above my heart. That one's quite painful. I get them in my shoulders, my knees, anywhere, because they're only allowed to give you so much cortisone, and it's bad for you, so I understand. It's not so hot for the joints anyway, and the joints are already disintegrating, but they have no soft tissue. Like my shoulders are bone on bone right now. I used to be able to do this, the praying hands behind my back. Little bar tricks like that. Today, I can't even do my own hair. My hands don't go above my head anymore. And where I was hypermobile, I am not as hypermobile because I'm losing, the elasticity of the joint. That is the tendons, the ligaments, the muscles, the nerve sheaths. Collagen, turns out, is everything in your body. And then I was a little naive, and when collagen hit the market, I think it hit as a beauty product, actually. I was like, oh my God, that's going to fix me. I'll take collagen and I'll have soft tissues again, and I'll have tendons and ligaments. And no. I can take collagen till the cows come home. Anybody with EDS can. The fact is, the body doesn't process it right. That's why it doesn't go to the skin, to the eyes, to the muscles, ligaments, tendons, teeth, nails, hair, you name it, and on your body, and it probably involves collagen, of all the stupid things. So that's my story for today. I do have an exposed capillary on my face. If you've seen some of my previous videos, that's why I have a thing about doing videos without makeup, because my face is normally like, I have a lupus butterfly. I have that red, purple, thank God you can't see it right now, right? But yeah, that's an Ehlers-Danlos flare, my friends, and may you never experience one. May nobody you know ever experience one. It's just horrific. It really is. And it sucks because like Ehlers-Danlos is tough enough to live with on the daily. Every day you wake up, you may fall out of bed, you may have this wrong, it may be that today. It just sucks. And I don't want anybody else to have it and not know it and not be properly treated for it. Because like when they had me in physical therapy, huge no-no, huge. Because say I'm just working my shoulders, right? I'm still standing on my knees, my ankle, my hips. So though you're working on one part of the body, you're aggravating the other. It's a no-win. It's just a no-win. So that is what a flare is. That's what takes me away from being able to make videos as often as I would like to. Because when you're sick, you just, it's terrible. So that's it. I'm going to stop sounding like I'm bitching, because I'm not. I just don't want anybody else to have it. So Ehlers-Danlos, if you have some kind of excruciating specific joint pain, or notice it or whatever, please don't ever think twice about mentioning this disease to your doctor. They may not know it, but at least when you leave, they'll Google it. Because I had one of my doctors did that, and then she gave me a call later to apologize, which I thought was great. It was just like, it was a new PCP. It was just like strep throat or some shit. But she's like, oh, any conditions? And I'm like, well, yes, Ehlers-Danlos, hypermobile. And she's like, well, what's that? So yeah, they don't know about it really. A lot of doctors don't. And if you have any of those symptoms, or especially more than one, I hope you look into it, because I don't want anybody to suffer as long as I did, or unfortunately, because we didn't know, we weren't able to treat it, and we were doing more damage for quite a while. So yeah, I hate to talk about this. This was probably the hardest video I've made yet, so I hope it didn't suck too bad if you're still here. And yeah, I don't know where to end it. I wish you good health, the best of health, and everybody you love and everybody you know. I just wouldn't wish this on anyone. I know I have one viewer that does have it. Hi, I hope you're feeling good. I hope you're not having any flares or any shit, because it's bad. It really is. And yeah, it's just not going to get better. It's just going to keep going, getting worse. It's just disintegrating. My joints, my ball and socket. I have a good ankle and a good wrist. That's about it. So yeah, I hope you have a great everything, and take care, okay? Thanks for hanging out. I know it wasn't too fun today, but it was suggested, and I thought it was a pretty good idea, so there's some information. I hope you take care, and I hope I see you soon, okay? Bye.